All right, it's time to talk about one of the craziest weeks of basketball that I've ever watched. I mean, you had Steph Curry getting injured, the Warriors getting blown out by 52, Anthony Edwards spraining his ankle but coming back to drop 44, the Celtics being proven as pretenders and not contenders by the Nuggets, and so much more. It was just insane to watch. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down everything that happened this week and my updated predictions for what I think is going to happen later this season, like the MVP award, like the NBA championship, and you know what? Maybe even some trades that'll come this offseason because a few teams have to be shaken up after the crazy events that just happened. Let's dive right into it. First things first, let's cover the injury bug that's going around the NBA right now. Because this week we had multiple notable players get injured. I mean, you had Victor Wembanyama roll his ankle, and now he's going to be out for a few games. Steph Curry rolled his ankle, and honestly, it was really worrying, but eventually an MRI did get done, and he'll only be out for a few games. But now to move on to the more serious injuries, Karl Anthony Towns tore his meniscus, which means that he is going to miss at least the rest of this season, if not the start of the next season, because a torn meniscus usually takes months upon months to just recover, to do surgery on, and he probably won't be back. Now, there was an update with Lonzo Ball, and if you guys remember Lonzo Ball, he hasn't played an NBA game in about 3 years because of his injury, and he is officially cleared for rehab, which means that he can start practicing with the team again. So that's pretty exciting. But that was just injury news. Let's move on to more of the games. Because right now we're literally in the final 1/3 of the NBA season. And the Spurs are officially out of playoff contention. The Wizards are officially out. The Pistons are officially out. And a few other teams are also officially out. But in the Western Conference, it really gets interesting up top because the Timberwolves, Thunder, and Nuggets are all within a half game of each other, all jousting each other for the number one spot. And even though the Lakers did have an impressive win over the Thunder on Monday and a huge win last night with D'Lo dropping 44, they're still stuck in the play-in bubble with 2 games behind the Dallas Mavericks, who have been playing really badly recently, going 3-7 in their last 10, but somehow hanging on to that 8th seed spot. Meanwhile, the Warriors are still currently in the 10th seed after that huge loss to the Celtics and a heartbreaker against the Chicago Bulls, which is, of course, the game that Curry got injured and they lost by a Brandon Pajemski missed layup. Now, the rest of the Western Conference looks pretty stable. There's always the chance for the Suns to drop a bit, for the Lakers to bounce up, but apart from that, the standings, they're probably going to stay the same until the end of the season, which means that playoff matchups will be really interesting. Because in that case, you're going to have the Thunder against the Lakers or the Warriors. That'll be a great series that honestly, I could see either of those 3 teams beating each other. You would then have the Timberwolves against the Kings or the Mavericks. Now, this is a really interesting one because I think that if the Kings beat the Mavericks, then they will not beat the Timberwolves. But if the Mavericks win with Luka Doncic and Kyrie, I think that even though they have been playing pretty badly recently, they'll be able to put something together. Then the Nuggets somehow dropped to the 3rd seed, so they're going to be playing the Suns, which is a rematch of last year, but this year the Suns also have Bradley Beal. Now, Bradley Beal has been really bad recently, which is another point that I want to cover, because his value is just tanking and tanking. He is not a good player, and he can't stay on the court consistently. And finally, for the 4 versus 5 seed matchup, you would have the Clippers versus the Pelicans. Now, usually you would be looking at this and saying, wow, the Clippers would dust them. But this season in particular, the Clippers have been facing so much trouble against the Pelicans. they have just not been able to get one confident win against them, and they've lost 4 of their last 5 matchups against them. This year's playoff in the West will be very, very interesting. And on the East side, hey, it's pretty obvious who's going to win it all. Because currently, the Celtics are 7.5 games above every other team. That includes the Cavs, the Bucks, the Knicks, the Heat, the Sixers, the Magic, the Pacers, and the Hawks, who are all bona fide championship contenders. Now, the 76ers have been struggling recently. They are 9-20 without Joel Embiid compared to the 20-7 that they were with him. And that's very, very worrying for them, because if they miss the playoffs, then Joel Embiid can't come back during the playoffs, which is his expected timetable to return. So they have to start putting some stuff together, because Joel Embiid is most definitely the most valuable player for this team. And just based on how much better his team does with him than without him, there's an argument to be made that he's the most valuable player in the entire league. I mean, any other team without their star player would be fine. They won't be good, but they would be fine. The Warriors without Curry in their last 34 games are 17-17. The Lakers without LeBron, 18-16. Honestly, Joel Embiid is such a difference maker that his team can't do anything without him. And now to talk about one of the biggest games that happened this entire week, we're going to be going over the Nuggets versus Celtics, because this game was really a preview to the NBA championship, because the Celtics look extremely good right now, and the Nuggets also look extremely good right now. And Nikola Jokic led Denver to a 115-109 win against the Seas. And honestly, it was very, very impressive for Jokic, who had 32, 12, and 11 with only 1 turnover. He was also dealing with an elbow injury for half the game, but he still orchestrated a strong night on offense against the Celtics, who are the number 2 team in defensive efficiency. The Celtics led for much of the first quarter until a quick 9-2 run gave the Nuggets a lead, and Boston never came close again. The game was at one point very, very close, which is 26 seconds in the fourth quarter, and the Nuggets had the ball. And the next thing that Jokic did was hit one of the craziest spin moves and lob it up to Aaron Gordon. And yeah, it was ridiculous. Meanwhile, Jason Tatum was totally absent from this game, only scoring 14 points, while Jaylen Brown had to backpack the team, but still unfortunately lost, as he had 42 points along with 13 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. And if we want to go to one of the most exciting games we've seen in a long time, let's swap over to the Lakers versus the Bucks, because D'Lo had 44 and the game winner. The Lakers have, of course, been one of the better clutch teams in the NBA this season and under the whole LeBron era, because they are 18-8 coming into the night that they won, when they're within 5 points in the final 5 minutes, which is also the highest winning percentage in the league. And they did this all without LeBron James. D'Lo hit 9 of 12 from 3, which was super impressive, and he had a game-winning floater in the lane with 5.9 seconds left. It was unbelievable, and honestly, it puts the Lakers on top of my list to be potential championship contenders that no one sees coming. And for the next segment of this video, I'm going to be going over the power rankings. And in case you don't know what power rankings is, it's who's most likely to win the NBA championship based on odds and my analysis of how the teams have been playing. And of course, at number 1, you've got to go with the Boston Celtics. Now, there is no team that's even close to as good as them, even though they did lose to the Nuggets, which is why I put the Nuggets at 2, because of course they are the defending champions. They've been locked in this season. They've just been great. Now, for 3, I'm going to put the Timberwolves. Even though Cat got injured, I still think that they're a great team, but they might just be a bit better than the Milwaukee Bucks, who I'll put at 4, along with the Thunder at 5. And I really want to talk about the Thunder because I think that they are currently too young of a team to contend for a championship. Now, you might have seen some stuff saying that there's no such thing as that from Jimmy High Roller, but well, he backed it up with statistics, but this team's way too young. They have no playoff experience at all, and I think that they will not be able to make a deep playoff run. Meanwhile, I'll put the Clippers at 6 because between Kawhi, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook, even though he did just fracture his hand, he should come back soon, which is pretty good. And then you have the pretty normal power rankings. But now I want to go to the stuff that might stump people for why I would do it, because at number 18, I'm taking the Indiana Pacers. Now, the Pacers have been looking like a good team this entire season with Tyrese Haliburton, Pascal Siakam, Buddy Hield. Well, not anymore, because they've had some really, really rough nights recently. They have lost multiple games in a row, and frankly, it doesn't look great. And then for my pick at number 20, which is basically the last person who can contend for a championship, I'm taking the Atlanta Hawks. Because even though Trey was gone for a few games, they had back-to-back wins. Even though they did drop back-to-back games to the Nets, they are currently in the play-in spot, and Trae Young has proven himself as a playoff riser. I think that it's very valid that this is possible. And next thing I want to cover, and probably final thing of this video, is the MVP ladder. Because ESPN dropped this, and I'm not sure that I really agree with this. They put Donovan Mitchell at 10. Yeah, that's valid. Kevin Durant at 9. Also valid. Number 8, Anthony Davis. Oh my gosh. No, that's wrong. I think that they should put someone like Anthony Edwards there instead, because he has led his team to one of the best records in the West without Karl Anthony Towns, with Rudy Gobert playing very mid, and just a few nights ago, he had 44 points and a game-winning block after spraining his ankle early in the first quarter that game. He's been on another level this season, and I would take him as a potential dark horse to come back and win the MVP award this season. For 7 and 6, they put Kawhi and Sabonis. That's kind of valid. But for 5, they put Luka Doncic. And I think that this is ridiculous because guys and girls, I'm sorry. But frankly, Luka is too good to be at 5th on the NBA MVP ladder. He is a stellar player. He can do everything that you want him to. I don't know why he's 5th. I would put him at 1 personally. At number 4, they put Jason Tatum, which I could see sliding. Giannis at 3, also valid. Shea at 2. I really don't like Shea. I just don't like him as a player. I don't think that he's nearly as skilled as anyone else on here. And I think the Thunder could be fine without him, which is why I wouldn't even put him on the MVP ladder to begin with. And number 1, they had Nikola Jokic. That is, of course, very, very valid because the Nuggets are 7-1 since the All-Star break, and he's averaging 26, 12, and 9 this season, which are historically great numbers. Basically, to sum up this video, the NBA was crazy this week. We had a batch of crazy performances, multiple players dropping exactly 44 points, the injury bug floating around, and a clear view for what might be set on stage for the rest of the NBA season. If you enjoyed, please drop a like because this video took me a hell of a long time to make, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.